Hello and welcome to this FMB webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Leigh Wood. I'm a staff member at the FMB, and today we're talking about something that's vital for every business, but something we probably don't think about often enough. And that's our security when we're doing business online in this digital world we all live in. So anyone of my generation will remember that armed robberies were quite a frequently reported thing in the press at the time, back in the 1960s and 1970s I'm talking about. And I remember being quite scared if I was standing in the queue in the bank with my mum, that a bunch of guys with stockings over their heads or balaclavas were going to jump out and run off with sacks full of cash, because that was something that used to happen quite often. Well, you never hear about that happening anymore. And the reason for that is, as we all know, people haven't stopped stealing each other's money. It's because they now do it online, because it's much less risk to their personal safety and probably a lot more lucrative as well. So today we're going to hear from our expert speaker, who is Leigh Wood from Node IT, who's going to tell us all about how to protect ourselves, about the risks we're facing and how to protect ourselves from them, which is going to be really helpful. A bit of housekeeping first of all, just to say that as we go through the presentation, if you've got a question that you would like to raise, and there's no such thing as a daft question, because there's only one of us in the room who's an IT expert, so any questions that occur to you, please pop them in the Q&A box that you'll find if you hover your mouse at the bottom of the screen, and we'll deal with those at the end of Leigh's presentation. We'll send you a follow-up email after the session, which will have copies of the slides and other documents that will be referred to, so you don't need to worry about taking copious notes through the presentation unless you particularly want to. We should get through the session in about 40 minutes or so. And I forgot to say actually that Leigh and Node IT are FMB's IT providers, that they support us with our IT facilities and have done for, I think it must be about 5 or 6 years now. I'm sure Leigh can correct me if I'm wrong about that. Before I hand over to Leigh, I'm just going to launch a quick poll question, and I hope that you will answer that so that it gives us an idea of our audience today. So it's asking, have you ever been a victim of cybercrime? So that might have prompted you to attend today's webinar, or you might just be on the lookout for such a thing happening. So I'll leave that there for a couple of minutes for people to answer that. And then I'll share the results on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to share that now, and it looks like a 50-50 response. So half the people attending have been a victim of cybercrime and half haven't, but anybody could be at any time. So I'm going to stop sharing that now, and I'm going to invite Leigh to put his camera on and start sharing his presentation. Over to you, Leigh. Thank you.
Hello, Hayley. Thank you very much. That poll's quite interesting, actually, because less than 50% of companies actually have the right protection in place. So if actually got a 50-50 result, yeah, it's about right, really, to what's going on in the industry. So
we're quite representative.
Yes, you are. Yeah. Absolutely, okay. Absolutely. So no, thank you very much for.
I'll let you share your screen now, Leigh, and I'll turn my camera off.
Yeah.
Thanks.
There you go. So yes, thank you again for inviting me this afternoon. So Node IT Solutions, we're an IT services company based in Bedfordshire, and we're very proud to be partners with Federation Master Builders, one of our wonderful partner clients, and we really love working with them. And over the past few years, we have been helping them with their cybersecurity and helping protect them, as well as improving their IT services. And so it's really nice for us to have the opportunity to speak to their members today. I've been in the industry for 30-something years nearly, and I can tell you my journey around cybersecurity and cyber safety has changed dramatically from when about 26 years ago we would go around with a floppy disk and update virus definitions and maybe clean a virus off a machine, to the threats we have today. In fact, just yesterday, a major telephony provider, their desktop-based phone system got hacked by the North Koreans. And this morning, lots of people woke up to phones which were able to actually look into their systems and share data out of them. Not they were aware of that. So, everywhere there is some cyber risk. 39% of UK businesses were attacked last year. And the average cost across the industry is £19,000. Now, that's the average cost. And I can tell you that can be down to about £4,500 for some companies. And I know of companies that went for at least £500,000 to £1 million in a cyber attack in the last 12 months. So if you think about £19,000 and the difference that would make to your business, and that would make to your month or your week, or even your year, that's a lot of money to lose. And the impact across the nation is massive. And as Hayley rightly said, we no longer have the attacks that happen, in the banks and things and the amounts of cash. In fact, banks don't carry that much cash anymore. They really don't. If you want to get substantial amounts of cash out of a bank, you've got to let them know if you can find a branch. So the main place where people are stealing your money is online. And we've got a great name for it, like cybercrime, but realistically, it's just fraud. That's a simple term that everybody understands. So people are trying to defraud you, your customers, and the other businesses you deal with from your money that you've earned. And it sometimes feels like a victimless crime because, as we say, there's no guns, there's no people running up the street. It's done blindly, and quite often you don't know it's happened. In the IT world, we don't like bank holidays. We like them for a bit of time off, but we don't like them because people choose to basically take advantage of that time when people are having downtime, because the hackers don't stop. The hackers are all around the world. They've got different time zones and they're ready to take advantage whenever they can. Quite often things happen in the middle of the night. For example, the problem with the phone system I mentioned earlier, that happened yesterday, but people all around the world were affected by it because it's quite a major phone system. So all hours of the day this happens. So you can't always see it happening. If you think about when you watch on the movies, you'll see someone coming in and then the IT team trying to stop the hacker getting in at the firewall. It doesn't happen, I'm afraid. Quite often you find out about it after the hacker's gone. There are occasions sometimes where you're quick enough and you might just be a few minutes behind them, which can help. But I spoke to a local police cybercrime unit, and they say it takes less than 15 minutes for money to be transferred out of an account and be out of the United Kingdom and away from our jurisdiction. And on average, it takes them 2 years to then follow that trail. So it's not like on the movies. So these frauds happen everywhere, and the impact on everyone's lives is massive. Now, we've all got the viewpoint of what a hacker looks like. That shrouded character in the corner, hooked over his laptop, and maybe in a bar somewhere or whatever he is around the world, trying to get everything that he wants to do. And he can do whatever he likes to your systems, and he does it instantly. Now, realistically, a hacker doesn't look like that. Hackers look like this. They're call centers. They are an industry that is a global industry that is bringing in billions of dollars a year, or pounds a year even. And it's massive. They have support lines. So if you are a victim of a cybercrime, say like a crypto where they encrypt all of your files and say, pay us some Bitcoin, here you go, and then we will basically decrypt all your files. Well, when they do that, some people don't know how to use Bitcoin. So they've got phone numbers that you can ring, and they've got a helpline that you can take advantage of. And they will basically talk you through how to pay the hacker money. And I know of a business where this happened to them, and then they got a phone call afterwards from customer services saying, would you like us to help you prevent this in the future? And spent an hour on the phone instructing them. Now that hour cost that person £18,000. So it is a business, and they are trying to find you or people like you who have got weak controls or weak IT security systems. It's a bit like a house. When you look at a house and you're a burglar and you want to try and get in there, you look at two houses next door to each other. The one with CCTV, the dog, the gate, all them things, and the one next door doesn't have CCTV, doesn't have a door gun, doesn't have a back gate, well, you're going to go for the easy option. So the hackers do the same thing. They will go across lots and lots of systems every day. They've got bots which troll the internet trying to find open computers or systems, or they'll send you emails through phishing. And we'll talk about phishing because that's pretty much the key way they'll get into you. And eventually somebody hooks, and then they basically go through the system and they'll follow you, and they'll get in, and then they'll wait. And that's the thing, they'll just wait. They're not daft, they don't rush. They watch how you work, they watch how you use your computer system, and then they'll create a targeted attack around you, make it look like you, and then they'll try and intercept your communications and steal your money. Or maybe they will hack your computer and think, actually, it's quicker just to hack your computer, crypto it, and then just extort you for the money. So these frauds are happening all of the time. And we help customers who are at risk, or we help customers who have clicked on the wrong thing, and our team come in and help. But we have to be quick, or quite often it is mitigation afterwards, because once they're in, that's it, they've got you. Now, understanding what the cost really to you is really important, because it's not just about the money. As I say, 19,000 is the average current cost, but can be more. But it's time, because you need to be out there servicing your customers. You've got bills to do, you've got bathrooms to fit, you've got all these different places. Maybe you've got a house to decorate, whatever it is, landscaping, all these things, and they take time. And I know I've just had a house build done myself. And in that time, you know, I wanted my construction team to be working on my home. But if you're being hacked and you're losing money because you've got to kind of fix your computer because, you know, you're trying to do it, so you lose productivity. And I can tell you now, it's very stressful going through this issue. I've seen people, they get very upset because they don't know how they're going to get their business up and running. I've been called to people's houses in the middle of the night saying, Leigh, I'm going to lose my business. I got offered a business one day because someone thought it was that bad. But, you know, we worked through it, we've got them fixed, we got through it, and we got the data back. Your reputation, it's really important, because if people see that you can be hacked or that you've lost that, people are more understanding today. But if you then don't take the right actions, and particularly if you're not honest about it, there are, you know, with GDPR, there are laws now in this country which say you need to let people know if you have been hacked within certain restrictions. So they look at you in a different way. Now, if you've taken all the precautions and you're upfront and you're honest, people are a lot happier with you rather than if you try and hide it away. And the other thing is money. You are going to end up paying out money or losing out money, or your customers may lose money. You know, if the customer pays for an extension, which is tens of thousands of pounds, and they accidentally go to the hacker because they've intercepted your emails, you're still going to want paying. And the customers, are they going to want to pay? You know, there's a lot that goes on there. And also, would you rather paying a hacker or going on holiday with your family? Because £19,000, I mean, I'd like to have a £19,000 holiday, but, you know, that's what it comes down to. It's money out of your pocket. So there are some things which are kind of red flags in our world, and I see this quite a lot with companies. And I've also had my own experiences. And so there's a list here in front of you of how you operate and how you work. And if you've done this or experienced any of this yourself, have you been on the side of this? Sending WhatsApp or text messages for sending bills, having a generic email address like an at Hotmail account. You know, these are, I mean, at Hotmail, goes back to about the 1990s, I believe. Now I've still got one somewhere, but you know, these domains, they don't have the security around it you would expect. And also, do you know, by sending emails with your bank details or your customer's bank details, how do you know they've got the same information at either end? If you send personal information, recently I was asked to send a passport for my daughter through email. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So I don't know what's going to happen to that data at the other end. I don't know what precautions are being taken. So if these sound familiar, These are all little hints as to where you may be at risk as an organization and where your customers may be at risk too. It's a bit like if you build a brick wall, you don't want it to look like that. You've got to have a solid firewall between the information that you've got and the information your customers have got, and sharing that with each other to ensure that you get paid and that you share the information that's needed. We deal as companies with a lot of personal data information. House plans are really important. They can be used by people in ways that you won't believe. We've got a customer who works with planes and propellers. Also, they do non-destructive testing of components which come from basically the latest RAF jets. And these RAF jets, they've got these plans which we don't want to be going off to basically countries that aren't desirable to the United Kingdom. So if they've got them plans, and or say maybe they've got a construction company because they know they're about to have a refit of their factory. Well, having the plans which says this is where we store this information, this is where we store these parts, they can be very useful to somebody who wants to steal them plans. And the same with people's homes, because our homes, a lot of us work from home now. So if you've got the floor plan of a customer's house and that's available on your computer, that can be gold dust to a hacker. It's not always about taking money from you. Sometimes it's about finding information around somebody. I know that as a company, everyone in my company, we're all very aware of the wider risks that we have. So if you come to my home and you ask for I've got 2 children, and if you come to my home and their friends come in, they're all asked to get on the Wi-Fi because they want to use our internet. And I will give them our normal Wi-Fi code. I've got a guest Wi-Fi at home, because if their device has got a problem on it, or has been infected by something, then that can spread across my house, which then can make maybe my device that I use for work at risk. So all these things come into play, and it's like a wider world of risk that you suddenly come across as you start to talk about these things. I was just sharing with someone today, I had the same issue where when trying to do a mortgage application, the bank was asking for information from one location, but send us an email from the other. And I had exactly the same problem as they did. So there's all these places where you should start to think, hang on a second, is this the right thing that's in front of me? Can I ask someone for a question about, is this the right place where my data should be going to? And quite often we're a bit shy about saying to somebody, what are you doing with my data? What's happening with that? Is this the right payment place? Because quite often there's a lot of pressure. We're in a very fast moving world. So being able to stop, think around what's being asked of you, not just blindly accepting that, is really important. Because that blind acceptance is what the hackers play upon. They play upon our cultural norms. They play upon how we work as humans. They know, they're great behavioral scientists behind these hackers who kind of work about, well, people work in this way, so we will take advantage of these systems. They're very clever. Don't believe these aren't clever people. They know what they're doing. One of the most popular ways that they take advantage is free phishing, by using all these systems that we're used to using every day. So phishing is a great phrase. There's lots of phrases like this. There's have you been pwned as well. That's another one, pwning someone and phishing. IT is full of this sort of jargon. But phishing is quite simple. They throw the rod and the line into the water via email, via phone calls, sometimes even by a letter, and they just hope for someone to get hooked. Just yesterday, I had a link come through on my email, which is an unsubscribe link. I was about to click on it and I went, actually, that email, I've never subscribed to that company. I've never looked at that company. And I don't remember why they would. Now, quite often people get things from marketing, but this company was making out I knew who they were and would I like to unsubscribe from their emails. I checked the link and it did not look good, is all I would say. So, even though we have protections around, some things still get through. Some things still get through. And that's what phishing is about. You're going out, you're trying to find the fish in the water, and eventually you will hook one and it will click on the link. So how does phishing work? Well, a link comes through to your computer, you click on the link, and then that link might say, oh, please put your username and password in for your Gmail or for your Microsoft 365 account or whatever it is, or another system. You put your credentials in, and then it'll error, and then it'll forward you on to the legitimate site, and you carry on working none the wiser. But what's actually happened at that time is you've given your credentials away to a website which is harvesting that information. Not only that, it can also take a copy of what's called a authentication cookie, and it basically can actually copy your authentication that you've got into your system, and then they can become you. And at that point, they can lock you out of your own mail accounts. And it's quite a widespread way of doing things. The other thing they could do is, rather than do that, they have a look around a little bit first and say, well, hang on a second, this person's doing several large-scale construction projects at the moment. So what I'm going to do is watch how you invoice. And they look at the invoicing. And then without you knowing it, they start to redirect your emails through their mail server. And it automatically then will pick up your invoice, change all the details, well, keep all the details the same, but change the banking details, deliver it to your customer. Your customer gets the invoice, they look at that and go, okay, that's not a problem, I'm expecting that. And then they put the money in and away it goes, and you never see it. And then you chase the customer 30 days later, or maybe 15 days later, or a week later. And the customer goes, well, I paid you. Here you go, here's the receipt. And then you say, well, that's not my bank details. You haven't paid me. Well, the customer says, well, I have. And you get into an argument, who's going to pay? Everybody loses apart from the hacker. And then you find out that's not the only customer it's happened to. And phishing attacks are basically the number one way that the hackers are stealing your customer's money before it reaches you. We've got quite a very good document, which we're going to share at the end of here, that you can download, which will take you through how you can prevent phishing attacks, or at least protect yourselves. The key thing to do is really be trained, to train all of your team, to train everybody who works for you, train your family, because quite a lot of businesses, family-run businesses, my family work in my business, and making sure they all understand what a good link looks like and what a bad link looks like, and also to question those links. So, for example, I had regular communications with my builder throughout our project. You know, we were using WhatsApp continually, but we had a code word. So we knew the word and we'd change the word on a regular basis. And if anything unusual happened, he got used to the fact that I would ring him before I would pay him. And one day he actually changed to sending me a text message, an SMS message. And I went, you don't normally act in that way, so I'm definitely going to call you before I pay you any money. Even though I knew his bank account hadn't changed and things like that, but I didn't know if being compromised. And he accepted that, and he was happier that I rang him and checked first before doing anything. Another great tip for this is, if you are working with someone new, and before you receive money from them or they send you money, ask them to send a small amount, maybe just £10 to your account. Then you can verify that money has arrived in your account. If that money is in your account, they then can basically be happy that it's gone there. And also let them know that you won't make changes. You won't make changes to your bank account, that you will be keeping with that account throughout the project. And if there is ever going to be a change, that you will personally tell them. Changing a bank account in a company is not taken lightly. So it doesn't happen that often. So you would expect that if you're going to do that, you would have to contact the customer and let them know specifically. And if people know your policy, then they know if something changes, if they know that something unusual happens, then that they won't make that payment until they've checked with you. The other thing is, there are technical things we can put in place, like filtering of email. There are also security settings on email. And this goes back to things about Hotmail and BT Internet and things. They have a level of security around them, but not the same level you would get by owning your own domain, by owning your own mail system, by using something like Microsoft 365 to host your email. There's lots of security which come with the product. it's worth paying a little bit each month for the subscription to a product like that and the security it's got, and making sure that security is switched on, which you will probably need to work with a professional company to do. But what that means is you know that your mail is going to be a lot more secure than just using a generic email account. It also looks a lot more professional. People really appreciate a company having them things in place. It's basically about getting the foundations right, like when building a business. If you get your IT foundations correct and your security foundations correct, then your risk reduces considerably. The things that you can do, the other things, I mean, this is one of the things I liked about the firm I worked with. They had a payment portal where you could actually receive an invoice and make payments. There are plenty of companies out there that do this. Quite often you may find if you're using something like Xero or Sage, there are methods of basically finding companies that will handle the payments. Yes, there is a small charge, but it means that everybody knows the payment is secure. And also quite a lot of times there's guarantees around them payments as well. It's much better to pay somebody 2% to handle a fee as a handling fee than it is to lose tens of thousands of pounds. Also, people prefer paying in that way now. They're used to it. It is the way we work. As I say, buy your own domain, own a domain. You can get domains relatively cheaply, and you can set them up with Microsoft 365 very straightforwardly. And having that makes you look professional, and you can put a lot more security. Quite a lot of the time we see people they've got a website and they get free email accounts to their website. So they use them email boxes, but very rarely is any security around those mailboxes. And they're the ones that hackers love, because they're not just emailing you, they're looking at your domain as well and trying to find, oh, hang on a second, they're running this particular web server. I could take advantage of that and get onto their emails from there. Try not to use email for bank details. Use a secure portal where possible. I try to send any sort of bank information or identity information as well. It's really convenient to use email, but it's not the best place to send it. If your invoices do go through there, that's fine, but make sure that you've got other ways around that so people can securely interact with your organization. Now, one of the good things the government's done in the last 7 or 8 years is a cyber essentials standard. So Node IT are a certificate body for this standard, and it's very simple. And I think if you're a company, you should look at this standard. There's lots of great advice on the NCSC government website. So NCSC is a part of GCHQ, which is tasked with securing the nation and the nation's businesses. And they created this standard, and it's got 5 controls, which basically around firewalls and making sure your configuration's done and antivirus, etc. Now, companies like us, this is what we do day in, day out, and we do it automatically for our customers. We've got tools that we put out there to make sure that people can do that and make sure that we stay within the standard. If you keep to this standard, you're going to probably knock out 70-80% of the main ways people get you. It's that making someone ring on next door's house to rob them instead of you. That people will look at the fact, oh, hang on a second, the firewall doesn't have a authentication enabled on the internet, so you can only get it from the inside. Or yeah, they have got proper Windows updates enabled on their machine. Their machine's up to date. Or they have got antivirus, so actually when they did click on that link, it stopped it. All them things basically stop the hackers from being able to get into your system and reduce how attractive you are. It's also a really good thing because some of the controls in there are just good IT practice. And we don't expect you to be IT professionals. We expect you to be, very good at the work you do for your customers. So working with people like ourselves who can look at these standards, deploy these standards, and take you through the process will really help. because you just want to basically get on with working rather than dealing with this. But also, if you've got a certificate, there are quite a lot of contracts that require it. So there is a incentive there. If you're going to work on government sites, they're going to expect cyber essentials because they're looking at their supply chain all the way down the line. So having this and the Cyber Essentials Plus, which is the higher level of the certification, it's very important if you want to go to them government contracts of any size, because that is basically the rules the government put in place. If you work with us, you must have cyber essentials. And they're doing more and more and more of this as we go along. And we've had customers who a few years ago were saying, oh, it's fine, we don't need this. And then they get in a questionnaire, which is incredibly long, saying, answer all these questions, or have you got cyber essentials? So you tick cyber essentials, you don't have to answer all the questions. Same with insurance companies, because getting cyber insurance is difficult. And you've got to meet certain standards for the insurance to be valid. And Cyber Essentials goes a long way to doing that. So that's another thing you could do as a company. But very simply, make sure you've got good antivirus on your computers. Make sure you understand the risks that face you and get some training on those risks. And we've got a document which we can share with you, which will help you with some of that as well. Then also, invest in your IT just a little bit, because if you've got a domain, you're going to look professional. It looks great on the van having your company name. It was the very first thing we did when we started the company. We got our domain name straight away, and people like it. When you're driving down the road and you see a van and you look at that van and they say at Hotmail, or if they say at my company's great, instead you're going to go find my company's great. So there are other benefits to that. And also, if you've got a service like Microsoft 365, you're going to have a lot more security there. But also, it's a lot easier to stay in contact with each other. You can use something like Teams rather than WhatsApp. You can share information with each other, like plans, etc. We look after electricians, and they use Teams extensively for all of their guys that are on site. They use Teams, they send the plans, they know the data is controlled, they know the data is on their device, but in a secure way. And also, we can delete that data if they lost their phone. So all these things that start to come available, and you get to be able to work a lot quicker and a lot easier, as well as being more secure and being able to show where your information, your data is. And people are wanting to see that more because they see it at work and they want to see it in their homes as well. So the last thing really I've got to say is basically we have got a free guide which takes you through phishing and how to protect yourself. Basically you share it with your team, share it with your suppliers, share it with everybody. It's free to go out there. We don't mind who sees this. The more people that can do it, they get to read it, the better. And I would just say, if you want to look at Cyber Essentials, the NCSE website's got lots of information, or you can contact ourselves. And that's it, Hayley. And have you got any questions?
Brilliantly, thank you. That presentation was quite scary in part. But you did finish with the positive steps that people can take to help to protect themselves, which is great. So I hope that's been really helpful for everybody. I'm sure it will have been. We have got a couple of questions. One of them is, what should I do if I'm a victim of cyber fraud?
First thing is, don't panic. And there's a couple of steps that we always have to take when it says this happens. One, if you've got insurance cover, the first people you speak to is your insurance provider. If you've got any cyber insurance cover, you need to speak to them first, because they will have a team and they will have actions. And to ensure your cover protects you, you need to contact them first. Then contact your IT professional or yourself. If it's yourself, you've got to do it yourself, but work with their team. If you've got IT professionals that look after you, quite often we'll get the call first because the customer recognizes something's going on, or we'll have alerts which look unusual. And again, we take the first step. We switch off and protect, and then we call the insurance company straight away, and we take their guidance. That is the very first place to go to. Now, if you don't have that, work with an IT professional. Find somebody you know, get in contact with them, preferably before this happens. Working with a company like ourselves, we're constantly working with our customers to understand the relationship they have with who could be affected by such a thing, and have the messaging ready. Be ready for it. If you've got a little plan written down, this is how we'll contact people. It makes it easier, because it's stressful. It's really stressful. And I've been with my team whilst we've been combating such an issue, or we've become aware of a risk that somebody's done something. And even when, another key thing is, you may think you're a victim, but you're not sure, still think you're a victim and act accordingly, because you're better doing that than doing nothing at all and then finding out later down the line you've really come a cropper.
Yeah, and I guess part of that emotional sort of reaction is that feeling of your privacy's been violated, hasn't it? Just the
Absolutely.
same as if somebody came into your home, which is a terrible thing to
Absolutely.
experience.
I think one of an experience we had recently helping a company out was an account got hacked, and that account had a folder in its Outlook called passwords, and in there was all the company passwords.
Wow.
So another thing you could do is maybe use a password manager like Keeper. Don't store passwords in Excel spreadsheets. Don't store them in emails. Put them in, download a password manager. There's plenty of free ones, or you can pay for one, but Keeper's a very good one. That's one we use. And it will store all your passwords. And what that does is it prevents other places having your identity as well. And if someone does get in, they can't just quite see from your Outlook what all your passwords are.
Okay.
Because we all tend to do things which are easy for ourselves.
We do. We trade our convenience for our safety in a way, don't we? Just because it's quick and easy to do it. I'm glad you mentioned insurance, because I wanted to let members know that FNB Insurance Services can source cyber insurance for members if they're interested in that. So the FNB insurance details are on the website. We'll put them in the follow-up email as well, so that people can investigate that if they want to. One of our members, Jeff, has asked a good question. I've wondered about this as well, Leigh, which is, how secure is WhatsApp? Because we're told that it's encrypted. Does that make it secure?
So encryption is a security function. So all encryption means is people can't really intercept the messages. But is the device you're using for WhatsApp secure? So you've got WhatsApp on computers, on iPad, you've got WhatsApp on tablets, or on your mobile phone. If that device is basically compromised, then WhatsApp is compromised. So anything that's on a device is as secure as the device itself. So so WhatsApp, what they mean by encryption is, so people can't listen in on your messages. They can't listen in between the transactions that are going on, but they may be able to take control of either end. So say your home computer is on WhatsApp and it's the middle of the night and it's still switched on, and your computer is basically caught out, people can use WhatsApp to send messages, whilst that's being compromised. So it's a matter of looking not necessarily at the system you're using to communicate, but the thing you're using to use that system on, and making sure that is protected. And there's lots of different layers of protection. It's like an onion. You can keep going down and down in way of protection. I recently met a security advisor to the US government, and wow, it was amazing the steps he takes.
I can imagine. And they've just advised their employees, I think that was the UK government as well, not to use TikTok for security concerns as well. So lots of those things are a worry, aren't they?
So TikTok, what that is about is there's a lot of political games around that one, you could say, but there are lots of Chinese brands that now the US government started it, and now the UK government are coming down that line. CCTV cameras, for example, there's a brand of CCTV camera which is now banned in the United States, and there's talk about banning that in the UK as well, and it's a Chinese brand. And the same with, it's a matter of what service you use, who's got access to that data, who is providing it. If it's free, you're usually the product, and somebody else has got access to your data and your information. So there was something recently about making your face look like a cartoon that went around lots of different places, and people were taking pictures of themselves, So they were getting facial recognition. They had all their personal details with it. That was going off to a server in Russia. So they're harvesting information about the computer, information about who you are, what your face looks like. That goes onto a server, and they say no one can access it. But do you know that's the case? And that information then can be used to track key people that other organizations are trying to find.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have nightmares tonight. We've got one more question from our member Jeff, who's asked about, is it best to turn your PC off at night? I guess you're going to say yes to that, are you?
Well, several things on that, but yes, absolutely. It's good to restart your computer on a regular basis. We get in the habit with our laptops, you put them down, it's switched off, and you put it up and it's instantly there. That's fantastic. The problem with that is if you never restart your computer, you don't get to install updates.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of updates that are key to keeping a computer secure or an application secure require a restart. So restart your computer. This applies to Windows, it applies to Mac, it applies to Linux, it applies to any sort of device.
Oh, with that as well, it's wasted energy.
Well, this is true. It's also wasting energy, exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely switch your machine off. That's fine. But also there are computers that need to be on all the time. You may have servers in your office or things like that. And for them, make sure you've got security around them. Make sure you've got a professional who can look after that device for you. Make sure it's secure. And we're now, the world we're getting into is into monitoring systems that we look after 24/7. And the amount of logs that come out of that. And now there's technologies to interrogate them logs and find the one error which is actually a risk. So there's lots of things that can be done.
Yeah, well, I suspect, Leigh, that we could talk about this all evening, but we'll probably better leave it there for now. So thank you very much to you for all of your knowledge and expertise you've shared with us. I think that's been really helpful and interesting. And thank you to the members that have attended as well. Our next webinar is on 18th of April. We'll be doing an update on health and safety, another important topic for members to keep up to speed with. And we will send that follow-up email, as we said earlier. So just remains for me to say good night to everybody, and thank you very much to you, Leigh.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.